Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full moon in Gemini, which I believe is occurring on December 15th for everyone throughout the world. Because in my time zone in the United States, Central Time Zone, it's 3:01 a.m. So I do believe there are people who are 16 hours ahead of me, maybe in the Southern Hemisphere, and even then it would be, 9 o'clock at night or something like that. So I'm going to just assume everyone is having it on the 15th. And this full moon in Gemini is at 23 degrees, almost 24 degrees of Gemini. And as a lot of you probably know, every time there's a full moon, the sun is at the exact degree of the opposing sign. So the sun is at 23 degrees, 52 minutes of Sagittarius. And so this is, the last week of Sagittarius season, heading towards Christmas, or well, actually the solstice on Christmas will be Capricorn. But there's like a heightening of the energy as it is, as we get to that solstice time on the 21st when the sun goes into Capricorn. And so it's a very high-powered time, high-energy time. And the holiday season certainly adds to that as well. And Sagittarius is a very festive sign, regardless of whether it is actually during the holidays. And I realize not everyone celebrates Christmas, but you certainly are likely impacted by the holidays regardless, even if it's only because you see decorations or other people, stores are closed or other people are celebrating. And of course, getting off of work or, just there being a day off or what have you. But in any case, I'm a sun in Sagittarius myself. And I remember having a boss who was had kind of a glum, demeanor most of the time. And it was the strangest thing. She would always get giddy during the Christmas season. And, in the United States, we have Thanksgiving. And this year we had a late Thanksgiving, but it's usually like, third or fourth Thursday in November. And that kicks off the holiday season. So some people, they really get into it. I'm, kind of a neutral observer. It is December's my birthday month, but other than that, I love the idea of the sun coming back to life, if you will, being in the northern hemisphere. That would certainly be the case, and it getting lighter and lighter. So all of this is, kind of brewing at mid-month when we have this full moon in Gemini. One interesting thing that is also happening on the same day, later on in the day, is that Mercury is going direct. For some of you, probably like the ones in the Southern Hemisphere, this may actually be the Mercury going direct, stationing direct, might be on the 16th of December for you guys. But for most people, it will also be in the 15th later in the day. But guess what? Mercury rules Gemini, so there is that connection there, and I find that very interesting and not a coincidence. I want to talk about something that is going to occur a couple of days after this full moon to give some hint to what may transpire. And I haven't heard any other astrologer or reader talk about this. I don't listen to a whole bunch, but in any case, on the 17th of December, which, by the way, is a Roman holiday called Saturnalia, which really seems quite a lot like Christmas. When I look it up, they mention that originally it was just on the 17th, and then they made it like a 7-day festival, and it was in honor of Saturn, not surprisingly. But it's very interesting. I would like to know why it was connected to Saturn. Maybe if I okay, well, I actually just kind of looked down. I kind of scrolled down, and they said that he was a deity of agriculture. So this is connected to that too. It's kind of like a harvest thing. It's midwinter, and there's actually another festival or another holiday, Roman holiday. It's called Opalia, but when I look it up, it said that it was in August, but I have in another, like in my Llewellyn magical almanac, it has it on the 19th. And supposedly she's a consort of Saturn, so there might be some connection there, since this Saturnalia is 7 days. So that takes you up to, I think they said the 23rd of the month, but I mean, gosh, it's almost by Christmas Eve on the 24th. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that there's something happening on the 17th connected to the United States elections that took place exactly a month ago, as I record this on November 5th. I mean, on December 5th, it was on November 5th. And this is when the electors vote for president. So, you have the people who think they're voting for the president, but they're actually really voting for the electors. And there are a certain number in each state. So if you heard about the popular vote versus the electoral vote, that's where that comes from. And so anyway, they're going to vote on that date. Now, I looked it up, and I said, can the electors change their vote from what the people wanted? And they can. They said they have voted faithfully on behalf of the public. I guess you would call that the electorate. But they could do otherwise. And this is, I'm saying all of this not to say that to bring, drag politics into everything. But let me tell you something. If they were to change their vote, my guess is that all hell would break out. Now, the problem with what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that anyone who had their vote not count for the candidate that they wanted would automatically run into the streets and start rioting. What I'm saying is that would give an excuse for people that were designed to riot. And then there can be martial law. And what's really interesting is that the other day I saw that martial law was trending on X, and I looked it up, and I saw that South Korea was having martial law. Why? Because they had a president, there was some kind of a situation involving a candidate that supposedly the people didn't want or something like that. I'm, not explaining this very in depth because I have to confess I just glanced at it, so I don't know exactly what is happening. What I do know is that the CIA has participated in many coups around the world, and where they have destabilized governments and installed puppets. And I don't know. I think that these scenarios can easily take place. And, the United States is not immune to that itself and could very well experience being couped. And the results of the election could be delayed. So we could not, because January 6th, if you've heard the term J6, that was in 2020. Well, I'm not going to get into all of that, but that was the day that the election was certified. That was when the Electoral College certified the election. Some people think it was a fraudulent certification. And then certain things happened after that, or during that. And I think that the things that happened were a smokescreen for the certification of a fraudulent election. So bringing it back to the full moon a couple of days earlier and Mercury going direct in Sagittarius, which is the sign of truth, and Mercury in Sag is the truth teller. Now we have Mercury righting itself. So everything is going forward. And what can that mean? Well, there might be, and I'm going back to the 17th. Well, actually, I want to just say about the full moon itself, because I am going to just briefly touch upon some of the aspects that are happening. But Gemini is the sign that rules the third house, and it rules all forms of communication. Because of the internet and because of social media, it is connected to that. A full moon, and of course journalism itself, news, then mundane information, which is what news is. Mundane doesn't mean unimportant in this context. It means worldly, of the world. So the point is that we could hear some kind of news at the time of the full moon. And keep in mind that this may be in play even before that. I would not doubt that there could be some major bombshell that comes out even before that, but certainly around the 15th for sure, especially since Mercury's going direct, and all of that information that was kind of maybe kept hidden or obscured comes out because it is direct. And just, as a collective, but even for each of us, the whole idea of internalizing things and internalizing our thoughts rather than express them freely to others. That's one of the things that the direct Mercury can be a part of, where things are going forward in the outer world. And so with the full moon being, revealing secrets, and this having the connection to possible news stories. That could be on everybody's mind, but then I even wonder if there could be an internet blackout since Gemini rules social media. Because if that event on the 17th is supposed to occur, because it's not something that they just randomly schedule. It's just like the election is the first Tuesday in November every 4 years, the presidential election. Same thing applies to the Electoral College vote. It's that it's like whatever, the fifth Tuesday or whatever it's supposed to be, after the okay, it says on this government site that it's the first Tuesday after the second Wednesday in December, after the general election. Okay, so that's the 17th. And I was kind of like, I kind of figured it was probably something like that, where it's not a set date. But my conspiratorial mind was saying, oh my God, it's on Saturnalia, Illuminati confirmed. But anyway, so there could be something connected to these two events of the full moon and that, whether it even occurs at all. So that's all I really want to say about that, because what I really want to get across is that news itself, or this event on the 17th after the full moon itself, or some other kind, could be kind of the tipping point for, or the excuse for, some kind of social unrest, that it's like problem, action, solution. Create a problem so that you have to, have some kind of solution like martial law that will enable people to stay into power, longer than they normally would. Enable, delay, drag out the scheduled process of the presidential installation, or whatever you want to call it. So these kinds of things could possibly delay it. But anyway, there could be other revelations that have nothing to do with the election that are also very mind-blowing. And so I just want to talk about some of the aspects that are happening here that may kind of flesh out what I'm saying. So we have the sun opposing Jupiter, the moon in conjunction with Jupiter, and Mercury opposing Jupiter. Okay. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It rules Sagittarius. And so it has the effect of exaggeration or exaggerating whatever it is coming in contact with. In this case, because it is forming a conjunction with the moon, which is full, it can produce, and by the way, Jupiter is retrograde right now. It can heighten or just be overblown. There could be emotions that are overblown. Now, it isn't an air sign, so it's not going to be the same type of vibe as like a heavy emotional situation, but it could be volatile because it is, the sun and moon opposing one another. The sun is in Sagittarius opposing an air sign, and the sun, the air fans the flames of the sun, of the fire, I should say. So it could be very incendiary in that sense. And Mercury being in Sagittarius, it could be like the truth really searing people. And I, encounter quite frequently people who, they have a certain belief that they are being told is not the case, and they don't want to hear. And they will say, I don't want to hear anyone saying that this other thing is true. And when somebody, maybe in an official capacity, says it, they may actually, it may start to sink in with them, and they won't, some people will not be able to really emotionally deal with it, because first of all, they've been lied to so long that there's cognitive dissonance, but there's just also this, it's like when somebody pierces someone's fantasy reality. They've been living in a kind of like, almost like in a deluded state. That takes time to kind of get acclimated. So, when you bring in the heightened emotions of a full moon, yeah, that can be kind of volatile. And Mercury is opposing Jupiter, so there's just like this excess of information. But both the sun and the moon are squaring off to Neptune. And this can be very emotional, because especially with the moon squaring Neptune, because the person is so disillusioned by, what they are experiencing. And this would be the news that they're hearing. It can be very disillusioning to them. And they don't really know what to do with that, because it's kind of like, if you ever have watched a soap opera, or you've ever seen, probably some movie where someone gets cheated on, and the other person confesses to them that they have been cheating, they've been having an affair. The typical response from the person who has been cheated on is, what are you saying? Because it still hasn't sunk in. Mars is in Leo, and we also have this Mars-Pluto opposition. Mars is in Leo, Pluto is in newly entered Aquarius. Well, second time is the charm. Now it's going to be here for 20 years. But Mars in Leo can be the ego taking charge of a person, their actions. In some cases, it can be noble types of actions that are based on a person's sense of self-worth. But because the sun is squaring off to Neptune, I was just listening to another astrologer today who was saying that they actually believed that narcissism was associated with Neptune, because the person has a diluted state of themselves. I don't know if I would agree with that 100%, because I do think Neptune, because it does rule Pisces, and there can be that victimhood, that it's not really that inflated a lot of times, as, for instance, with hard angles to Jupiter. I feel like that can be, but actually we do have the sun opposing Jupiter. So for sure, it can be like the delusions of grandeur, but actually losing one's own, with the hard angle to Neptune, losing one's sense of self, and therefore the person is, acting out with opposing with Pluto, and it is considered quite, you could even say dangerous, that opposition, Mars opposing Pluto. And so I don't like to, be ominous about anything like this, but I will say that I think it's wise to be as self-aware as you can, but also to be as vigilant about the tendency to react, and also about anything to do with power struggles, which can be that opposition. Because Pluto in Aquarius is power to the people, and so there can be people who feel emboldened by congregating with others, and of course that is really, I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and it's a legitimate thing. I used to watch when the people in France were going out to streets, those yellow vests and all of that. And that went on for quite a while. There's something to be said for that, especially if it gets the people what they want. But sometimes it can be manipulated. Sometimes it can end up something other than what it was intended to be. Or, there could be the desire to get people into that agitated state so that then, whipping people into a frenzy and then like clamping down and saying, well, you're out of control. So we're going to have to, have very, take very draconian measures. So, yeah. Mercury is squaring to Saturn and trining Neptune. Boy, is that interesting. And so it's like, that square can be pessimistic, and yet the trine can be very spiritual. And I think that at the end of the day, if people keep their eyes on the prize about anything that is going on in the material world, is that this too shall pass. That we, are not just these physical beings. And so if things seem to you a bit out of control, you don't have to, live in that energy or operate from that energy. You can actually choose to stay above the fray. In terms of, I think there's like a couple of good aspects for money. Venus is trining Jupiter. That's always good because both of these benefic planets are connected to money in their own way, but also Venus is in conjunction with Pluto, and that can confer wealth or financial empowerment. And there's a sextile between Mercury and Pluto, which is great for personal transformation, using the mind. Also, that trine from Mercury to Neptune is great for any spiritual pursuits or creative pursuits. Be very good for meditating. And boy, that might be a good night to meditate. Well, I mean, full moons are always considered really heightened times for meditation, but with everything else that might be going on, sitting at home meditating might be quite the plan. But I never tell people what to do because everybody has their own destiny. And even if something seems like it's going to be, difficult, it doesn't mean that a person shouldn't do this or that. So whatever you decide is how you choose to spend this full moon, it's going to be, oh yeah, what day of the week? Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Well, you know what I think? I mean, I'm talking about in the United States, because it's exact at 3 a.m. It's going to be really almost like on Saturday night. It's going to be, in full effect. Let's face it. So that's always interesting when it falls on a weekend. So that's another thing to keep in mind too, when, what day of the week it falls. So we're talking about here early Sunday morning. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out, or put this out here about, this could be a time of great revelations, and also leading up to something else happening that's quite explosive. And stay on the high watch, and keep that expansive emotional conjunction between the moon and Jupiter going for you, because it is going to be probably very emotionally uplifting amid potential chaos and, news flying a mile a minute. And, we'll get through it, and we'll see a lot of changes because, by the way, Sagittarius and Gemini are mutable signs. So they really speak of change. Okay, that's what I have for you. Take care. Bye.